So the time has come for me to talk about and somewhat review Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. I want to say thank you to Bandai Namco for sending me a code. This is not a sponsored video, meaning me getting paid in any way. So all my sayings and opinions in the video come solely from my impressions playing the game. Straight off the bat, I want to say that Armored Core 6 is a game that is not holding your hand to a certain extent, which is kind of expected since the developers behind Armored Core 6 is the same guys that has made the Dark Souls games, meaning FromSoftware. If you haven't played any Soul games before, you might be wondering what I'm referring to, since you're playing with mechs here called ACs and not swinging a broadsword wearing armor, which might be the case when playing Dark Souls. Well, I'm simply referring to the fact that you will most likely die quite a few times when meeting certain bosses in this game. Actually, that happens for a lot of people already when facing the first boss in Armored Core 6. You also might have to replay the mission or a level from the start if you die halfway through before getting a checkpoint later on, often before meeting a boss. That's also often when you are able to replenish ammo and heals, meaning by the checkpoint. Because they have added the possibility to heal in the game, something that modern FPS gamers will appreciate, I guess. But they are only 3 and you might run out of those heals pretty fast if you're not careful enough. The visuals in the game, meaning graphics, are good, and the game seems to be well optimized overall here on PC, since the gameplay you're watching here is me playing on a low or mid-end PC setup. But even so, I was able to get decent performance overall, which might be good news for some gamers out there that are hesitating to purchase the game due to having low spec PCs. Make sure though to check out the specs on Steam before actually buying the game, or any game for that sake. The only time, funny enough, my frames dropped hard was when I was in the customization menu, meaning assembly, or in the store. That could be due to ray tracing in the actual menu and settings. Let me know if anyone has experienced the same thing as I have when it comes to this. Armored Core 6 has also a pretty good way of letting you getting used to the ACs you're using in the game, both from the start of the game, early on when you don't really have much unlocked in the game, but also later when you, for example, unlock training missions, you might say, that gives you a possibility to try out different styles of ACs, which both gives you an understanding how they work in combat, but also gives you a hint when it comes to what style of AC you want to go for. Because the game has an in-depth customization system when it comes to more or less every part of your mech, and your purchases and upgrade decisions will have an impact on stats when it comes to weight, speed and overall performance. You also unlock Arena, which alongside with training mentioned earlier gives you the opportunity to play 1 versus 1s against ACAIs, and this gives you a chance to test your skills, but also to see how different builds match up against each other. You might say that it works as a soft introduction to the PvP mode that will be available later on in the game as well. There is a storyline, of course, that follows along the different missions. At first, I honestly have to say I didn't pay that much attention to it, since most of it is told by text. However, it does become more interesting as you go, so you might actually want to pay a bit more attention to it already from the start, at least a bit more than I did initially. I mentioned earlier that the game is not for everyone, but if you want to play Armored Core 6, you have to first off really enjoy spending quite some time with these ACs or mechs in order to not only become better at using them, but also in order to understand when and how it might be a good idea to change your build, or at least make adjustments accordingly to increase your chances to beat a certain boss, instead of raging too hard and maybe smash the controller into the wall after the 6th attempt or something like that. Because I am playing with a controller even though I'm playing the game on PC, since I do believe it might be the best choice. However, my oldest son did try to play with keyboard and mouse and found a good key binding combination that worked well for him. So if using a controller, there's also different setups to choose from when it comes to button layouts, and I do believe you can map it yourself as well. Let me know what you prefer here, controller or keyboard and mouse. The cool thing, as hinted earlier, is that the boss's plays and works quite differently, which means that you might look into that particular boss movement patterns or in build. Is it tanky? Does it have armor of some sort? And I'm saying this since that might help you out a bit, not having to play against the same boss over and over again, building up your rage meter too much. Very often a key to beat the toughest opponents in the game is to get the boss staggered as often as possible, and there's of course different ways or builds regarding your AC in order to accomplish just that. A good melee can do the trick, although I found out that dual wielding the shotguns in combination with a laser cannon or two on your back was a pretty good match. And since you sometimes need to get quite close up to these bosses, maybe even fly or dash hard in order to get behind the bosses, since the front might be shielded or have armor. There's also some replay value here, since you might consider to replay the game when you've beaten it, in order to get a different ending. When it comes to social value, I do wish though that they would have added at least a few co-op campaigns in the game, since I believe a game like the Armored Core 6 would be a lot of fun in co-op mode. That's one of the few things I'm missing here. Sure, as mentioned earlier, you'll be able to play PvP, and if the matchmaking system works out well, then you should be able to team up with a friend or two, but that's still another thing since it's PvP and not PvE. So if you're looking for a good shooter that for sure will also give you a challenge as you go, then you might want to look into Armored Core 6. You'll find the game on PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and Series S and PC. When it comes to PC and Steam, there's also Steam achievements, Steam trading cards and partial controller support. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. It would be great to hear from you as well when it comes to your thoughts regarding Armored Core 6. It can be if you played the game, but also your impressions overall watching other people playing, and if it's your style of a game. And also if you enjoy a variety of FPS gaming, then consider to subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out when I post another video here on my channel. Have a great day my friends, and talk to you later. Cheers!